You are listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin. To master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Once you walked in a forest of splendor in which everything you did and everything you thought was aligned. It is possible at this time to begin to return to the old knowledge. Intuitive healer and manifestor Julia Griffin is here to talk about this unique time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you are born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I awakened with wolves. I met a wolf. It talked just like a real person, and they taught me about the energy of the heart and energies of the universe. As a result, I can hear plants, animals, and people's thoughts, and I became an intuitive healer, and I write about it. Now, let me tell you about today's guest, Jill Jackson. She is an internationally celebrated psychic channel, spiritual teacher, and published author, known for her empowering work as a soul alchemist. Through her intuitive guidance, Jill helps clients awaken and ignite their sacred gifts, creating profound shifts in their spiritual journeys. As the author of The Children of the New Earth, Manifesting Your Magic in the 5D, Going Beyond the Laws of Attraction, and a Manifesting Your Magic in Journal, and Mississippi Medium, A Journey from Southern Baptist to Talking to the Dead, that's a great title. Jill's teachings inspire students worldwide to embrace their magic, transform limiting beliefs, and step into their divine purpose. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you for having me, Julia.
I'm so glad you're here. Now, I want to know how you became a soul alchemist and what your transition, because I was raised as a Southern Baptist, how you went from that to where you are and became a medium and mystic.
Absolutely. I was born with the ability to see the spirit world, so it's been something that's been with me my entire life. But I also tried to fit into society and fit in with like the normal world. So I ended up becoming a business manager in Hollywood. And after becoming very sick and also suffering with 5 different miscarriages and being unable to manifest what I thought I had wanted more than anything in the world, I went on a journey to find out why I had been unsuccessful. And during that journey, with everything I discovered, I decided that that would help other people as well. And so that's why I wrote the Manifesting Magic book. And through this, in embracing my own shadow, my own traumas, I also discovered how important shadow work is, and understanding how to work with our own ego, our own limiting beliefs. And that's why it's my joy to help people alchemize and truly peel back those onion layers and understand where their gifts lie, because we all have them.
Was it initially difficult for you to step away from the church and the society you grew up in?
Yes, it was, that was a journey within itself as well. But I started recognizing that a lot of the teachings that I was, being taught in the Southern Baptist churches were not only hypocritical in a lot of ways, but also I felt that there was a lot of division and non-judgment. And the more that I awakened to my own gifts and understanding my relationship with Creator, it truly went against everything that I knew to be true within my own heart.
Mm-hmm. It really takes that to step away from that, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So, when you were going through this, what were some of your trials and tribulations that you went through?
Well, I continued trying to go back to the church, even in different states. I had moved to Florida, and I would try and have an open mind. But again, I continued to notice the division and the fear. And I tuned into my energy, and my energy felt lower vibrating anytime I would go and listen to a sermon. And
Right.
so I connected more and more with the natural world and understood that my relationship with Creator was my relationship, and that we're each a spark of divine. And so little by little, I just started pulling away and recognizing that it was not part of my journey any longer.
And as a Baptist, there is a big emphasis on going to hell unless you're doing what they want you to do.
Yes, it was a lot of control, dogma, and everything that I was learning from my own mentors, and then everything that I started teaching my own students went completely against the control. To me, when we're awakening to our true potential, that is a very flowing, intuitive, open process. And when someone is attempting to control us by fear-based dogma, that goes against everything that I came to believe as my truth.
Because we're trying to release judgment as we grow.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And as an empath, you may not, how can I put it? You you may not think that it's okay for someone to do something with the way you feel about life, but you understand how that person feels and why they did it.
Exactly. And that is a huge part of why I left as well, because to me, it is not our place to judge others. And, when I was even having clients come to me and saying that their pastor or someone in the church had told them if they came to me, for a session to speak to one of their loved ones who had transitioned, that they would be in turn going to hell. And to me, that is not only judgmental, it goes against everything that I believe. And I empower people. And when we can have conversations with our loved ones, then that not only teaches us with certainty that we survive our physical bodies and that our souls go on, but it also helps us to continue expanding as well. And it brings a sense of closure.
I was going to say it's almost cruel because people get such a sense of comfort from feeling and hearing from people that they love who are on the other side if they can't do it with their own volition.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think for a lot of people, it settles. It puts it in a place where they can move on, and yet they know the other person is still there for them.
Yes. And I love teaching my own students, how to connect with their loved ones, because our loved ones show up in so many different ways. It's just sometimes in our deepest grief, we miss the signs because, we are grieving, but our loved ones are always giving us signs all the time that they're around us.
I think so too. Um, so I wanted to ask you, you say that you've manifested almost everything that you ever wanted. How do you get people to start with manifestation?
The first aspect to manifesting is to get to know ourselves, because without knowing our soul's blueprint and knowing what our soul chose for us for this incarnation, along with the help of our spirit guides, it is much more challenging to manifest something, because if we did not choose it on a soul level, there's going to be roadblocks along the way. So I would say that's the first step, is to truly get to know ourselves, but to also understand that manifesting in the third dimension, which that's the dimension that we reside in, but that's also the dimension of war, anger, separation, and the ego comes in, and the ego starts telling us falsely many times that we're not able to do something or achieve something. So I teach people to raise the vibrational frequency and make sure that we are tapped into what I call the quantum or the fifth dimensional um, frequency. And that way the ego can't come in and start with the false narratives, with the beliefs of, oh, I cannot do this, I don't have the money, all the don'ts and wants and shouldn'ts and that so forth. So when we're in a higher dimension, it flows. And the other key is to feel it and to believe it, and to also start taking the action steps to bring that very thing into fruition as well, which creates a vibrational effect, and it lets the universe know that we really are ready to manifest that very thing.
So I know people are going to ask, what are the action steps? How do you know this means for me to take an action?
Yes, to start researching. And, I tell my students and my clients that if you're trying to make a choice on something, if you're trying to decide, let's, for instance, you're looking at two different places to move, then write down on a piece of paper option A, and then on the other side, option B, and write down some free form thoughts of what comes in, and then go into a meditative state, do your breathing exercises, and bring that reality into your awareness in the now. So, in other words, let's say that you are looking to move to Sedona. So, get into a meditative state, bring that reality into your awareness now, and see how you feel in the physical body. And then in turn, the other place that you are considering, see how it feels in the physical body. But the other key is for us not to attempt to control the outcome, because that's when we know that the ego and the left brain is coming in trying to interfere. The key is to ask our spirit guides to start giving us signs, symbols, and synchronicities. Some people call them breadcrumbs, to help guide our way. And then research those areas, join forums, start talking to other people. Again, that's the spiritual law of action. Maybe take a trip there. That's the spiritual law of action. You're saying to the universe, I'm ready and willing if this is for my highest and best good at this time.
Right. And I think the releasing the control is really important, because I know sometimes I can't figure out a problem for someone, and I'll tell them, let me get back to you in a couple days. And I'll think, I wonder what the answer is. But if I'm washing dishes or cooking or something, it just pops in. And if I sat there and wondered what's the answer, I would probably never get it.
Absolutely. And that is so true, Julia, for ourselves as well. If even after all these years I've been doing this work, I still have challenge with that from time to time, because, the ego wants to control. We feel like that if we can try to control the narrative, that's going to be our highest and best good, but it's just truly not. So like you said, if we can trust and surrender it and just let it go, 9 times out of 10, the answer flows in a day or two when we're not even thinking about it.
But you can't always just say, I'm going to get the answer, so I'm going to focus on this until I get the answer. It doesn't work like that.
No, it does not. And that goes along with vision boards as well. I teach my students, when you do a vision board, then trust the universe, put it away, and know that the universe is working on your behalf, rather than clawing and scratching every single day and getting into that anxious mode. Is it coming today? Is it coming today? Because that is the ego and that is the left brain.
And I think a really important point that you're making there too is all the troubled thoughts that we have, those are coming from the ego. So if we can get beyond it, we probably will find the answer or will see the solution.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes the signs are so subtle, but if we have trained our brains to pay attention to those subtle signs, then many times that's all the answers that we need.
And it's different for everyone, the way we get answers, I think.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Okay, so you got us started on our manifestation. What if it's one of those things that it takes a while to manifest? What do you do while you're waiting?
Just continue with our own soul's evolution, peeling back those onion layers, getting to know ourselves. And for those empaths out there, learning to distinguish what emotions are coming from ourselves versus what emotions are coming from the collective. We can learn to tune into that and finding those moments of stillness and I love your connection, Julia, to plants and nature and the animal kingdom. They have so much to teach us. And so while we're waiting, many times just communing with nature, communing with the animals, a lot of times we get signs and symbols that way as well.
Well, your ego certainly turns off when you're doing that.
Yes, they teach us so much about unconditional love and also trust and flowing.
And I have a theory, and I think I'm right, but I haven't proven it. Let's put it that way. And that is that when we're outside and we're thinking about what we want, even if it's intermittently, let's say I'm weeding my garden and throwing in some seeds, because I will definitely do that today. If I think about it even briefly or even on and off, I think that nature tries to correct it and help me manifest it.
Yeah, it's just connecting with that energy of Mother Gaia. Mother Gaia loves working with us energetically, and to me, it's kind of a wheel of fortune effect as well because we bring our energy in gardening or planting the seeds, and then we're also receiving that same energy from Mother Earth as well.
And I should probably add, since we're both from the South, that people in the South spend a lot of time outdoors and eating outdoors and working in the garden and going for walks at night because we have such a long summer season.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing that I would invite people to do is to learn to be in the now moment. That is one thing that I've really been focused on lately. And it's so wonderful. Like when I'm outside, I just take some deep breaths and I offer gratitude for everything that I see around me. And when we raise our vibrational frequency, the other thing that we start noticing is the colors in nature are brighter and more vibrant as well. And so I take a moment to offer appreciation for that while I'm out in nature as well.
Because if we just stay in, the shapes are pretty limited.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So things like that, I do think that that helps with the process. Now, I know you have a workbook. Should everybody use it?
Yes, when I wrote Manifesting Your Magic, I had journal prompts at the end of each chapter, and so many people were reaching out to me and telling me that they had gone out and bought a journal just for the manifesting book. And people said, "Oh, I wish we had a workbook to go along with it." So I decided to write the workbook to go along with it. I brought in some new information, and then I left some journaling pages at the end of each chapter. So the way that it's designed is you read chapter one in the regular book, and then you go to chapter one in the workbook, and then you take some time and answer the journal prompts. And I always tell people that, you know, taking the energy as the turtle rather than the hare when we're embracing our shadow, we're really tuning into our soul's blueprint is the way to go. And having grace with ourselves. I've heard from so many people that much of it brought up some triggers for them. Let's say maybe they got to chapter 3 or 4 and that they needed some time to really process their emotions before they picked it up and started back again. And it's designed that way.
Because we do that with manifestation because it so brings up the part of us we weren't aware of that is going in the opposite direction.
Exactly. And many times when we think that we're wanting to manifest something, It's truly just been playing in our mind for so many years that when we take a moment and go within and find stillness within, we recognize that that was something we were wanting to manifest maybe 10 years ago, and that our needs have truly changed since then.
Or sometimes it just comes back and it's time to do it. Because I know I had wanted a big herb garden for years and years, and then just one year I decided to do it. And that was just
Yes.
wonderful. But it was like all of a sudden it came up, really came up strongly.
And that I love that too. And that's why it's so important for us to learn to tap into our intuition because, like you said, sometimes we get these whispers of inspiration, but the timing is not quite right.
Yeah, because I mean, I had wanted it for a long time, and then it was just like one day that dream just came in so alive.
Yes. And I think that one thing I'm able to help my students with is when we're clairvoyant or when we can see visually something coming in the future or we're claircognizant and we just have such a deep knowing, it's important to ask ourselves, are we seeing that a year, 5 years, 10 years in the future? Or is that something that's meant for us right now? And sometimes it's different.
I would say that one was probably 12 years from the time I thought, oh, that would be nice to really wanting it.
Wow, 12 years. See, that's so common.
hmm So that was the reason that I asked that particular question. So I think we want to do this one after break, but I was going to ask, what are some really good manifestations that your students have created? I know you know.
Moving, jobs, careers, sometimes when we again we think we want to manifest something and we have that in our conscious mind, but we allow the subconscious mind to start working in conjunction with us, the magic truly happens from there. So I've had some of my students say that throughout this process they've even become different parents in the way that they parent their children from so much of what they've learned. I've had people that ended up in animal rescue that had no idea that that was going to be part of their path and their journey. Just on and on and on, moving to places that they had no earthly idea
Right.
that they were going to be moving to.
Because sometimes you can say something like you want to move, but you end up in a different place than where you thought you were going.
Yes, absolutely. Part of what I had so much fun writing this book is I also brought some fiction in. I brought some fictional characters into the book to help people. And when we can read about other people's experiences, then that helps us many times as well. And I use a lot of examples in there where someone thinks they're wanting to move someplace, but the universe has a different place for them in mind. But it ended up just being a short detour, and then they moved there for a specific person to meet their beloved, to meet a friend. And then from there, they continue the journey relocating together.
That's really beautiful. I was going to say that's a funny thing. I just remembered this. When I wanted the herb garden, someone had just started a seed company for herbs like an hour away.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it was called the Flowery Branch, which I thought was a beautiful name.
It
But
is
sometimes I think,
beautiful.
when we're talking about this, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure my desire coincided with the availability of seeds because otherwise the only place to get them is New England, and that means maybe 2 out of 60 come up, because they're not
Yes, and
acclimated for our climate.
right, absolutely. So it was all in alignment and divine timing. It's
hmm
so beautiful.
It is. It's so wonderful that you teach people these things. It's great. So I think that it's time for us to go to break. I'm here today with Joe Jackson, and we're talking about manifestation, which is something that we all need to know more about and we can learn more about. So we'll be right back. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm talking with Jill Jackson, and we're going to talk about the children of the new earth for this segment. So, Jill, can you introduce us to who the children of the new earth are?
Absolutely. I'm sure most of the listeners have heard about the crystal children and the indigos and maybe even the rainbow children. In 2014, I started channeling about children that were going to be incarnating starting in 2015, and they were calling them the children of the golden ray. And they said that they came in on the 12th ray of consciousness. They've never had any incarnations on this planet. However, they're very wise souls who have been on other planets, and that they were coming in for a very specific purpose. And I write about it in the book that I had my own moment of the ego coming in and questioning, why I was going to be the one to write this book, since I was not able to have biological children myself. And, I kind of went through that false narrative and the false beliefs myself. And my guides helped me work through it and helped me understand it was the ego, and that I had been a psychic and medium myself as a kid, and that I could really help other parents and guardians of gifted children. And so I started writing this book, and it evolved over time. And I've even channeled about the children after the golden ray children. And the spirit told me that they're called the solar ray children. They come in on the 13th ray of consciousness, and they're connected with the energy of the sun, a lot of illumination. They're coming in to help expose a lot of the corruption, and help us anchor in truth. And I just love that. And it's been so beautiful writing this book. And I went all the way back to the indigos, and I have been interviewing either different psychics, healers, mediums who have the gift themselves, or who are the parents and guardians or grandparents of the rainbow rays, the crystal rays, the diamond rays, the golden rays. And so each chapter has excerpts from these interviews as well. So I'm really excited for the book.
And I know you got it straightened out with your guides, but I was thinking yesterday about Mother's Day. There's so many women who nurture other people's children, who nurture plants, who nurture the earth, who nurture animals. And all of those people are the same. We're all mothers.
We are all mothers, and that is so important for us to remind ourselves. And that's what my guides helped me understand, is that I did end up being a mother. Not only am I a stepmother, but I am mother to furry babies. And I'm also a mother in many ways to my students. They've come up to me over the years and said, I just feel that you mother us. And so there's so many different expressions and ways that we can show up as a mother.
And it's nurturing. Anything you nurture, I think you're moving into that role. I really do. So tell us about the characteristics of these new children. What makes them different?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the Rainbow Ray children. When they arrived, they helped us with gender identity, or those who choose not to identify with a certain gender. And so that was one of the main traits of the rainbow rays. A lot of them came in with a balance of their masculine energy and their feminine energy, and helping people become more comfortable with understanding that it's not for us to judge what others choose to express themselves as. And so that's one of the main traits, just and there's so many more, but I'm going to shorten them for this purpose. And then the diamond rays have a beautiful prism-like aura, and they help bring a lot of compassion. They have some of the same characteristics as the crystal children did from the late 90s and the early 2000s. And they also have an affinity of working with crystals, working with the energy of plants and animals. And then the golden rays came in to help us anchor the energy of Mother Earth. So, for example, the diamond ray children still have a life purpose of helping other humans awaken and understand their potential, but the golden rays main purpose is for Mother Gaia, for Mother Earth, to help us come up with more sustainability. They're going to be really involved in environmental issues. And they started anchoring the energy as well with understanding AI, even though they're very young right now. That's part of their mission to help us understand the energy around artificial intelligence. And then the solar rays they started arriving in 2020, and part of their mission is to bring in the more of the conscious awareness of the Sophia consciousness and to help us understand truly that the Christ consciousness is the masculine side of ourselves and the Sophia consciousness is the feminine aspect. And together, that brings unity consciousness. So when they started arriving, they brought that energy with them and they started anchoring that in. So over the next decade or so, we're going to start seeing more and more people coming to the realization of the same kinds of things that you and I did, Julia, many years ago with people are going to choose to leave religion more and more. And part of it is the energy that these children are bringing in to truly anchor that so that we have an understanding that a lot of those teachings from Yeshua, more, commonly known as Jesus, have been um, changed and altered over the years. And so that's one thing that they're bringing in, which I love.
They're rewriting spiritual truth.
Yes, yes. And, they come in on such a high frequency, and the solar ray children have not had incarnations here on this planet either, but they come with such wisdom from a multidimensional aspect and a higher vibrational frequency. And so they're able to bring that energy and anchor it in on our planet, which is absolutely beautiful.
I've noticed with people who were born in the teens that they're very aware of what's going on in the world and what's the matter with it, but they also really believe they can change it.
Yes, it's like you said, they have a knowing at a young age of, even they may not have all the details, they have a knowing that they came here for a very, very specific mission.
Because I'll be honest, I mean, they are so hopeful. If I had listened to all of that as a child, I probably would have cried at night.
Yes, yes. But they're very evolved souls.
I know, and you can see them taking it in and forming thoughts about it. And if you ever
Yes.
ask them how you feel about it, they say, we'll figure out something.
Yes, yes, the confidence. That's another one of the
Mhm.
traits that I've seen in interviewing these parents of these children. Some of the stories that they're telling that I relay in the book are just really entertaining too because of the way they express themselves.
Will you tell us a story?
Yeah, so one of my favorite is I had a session, a husband and wife came to me, and she was pregnant. And during this, they came at the same time. And during this session, I communicated with the soul of their unborn child. And she told me that she was a golden ray. And she started telling me even more of the traits. I had been channeling the information, but here I was communicating with a golden ray soul, and her soul was so pure that I was just crying in the session. It was such an honor to be connecting with her. And a lot of what she talked about, even before she was born, of her connection with animals and how there was going to be no fear because the animals, and especially wild animals, would be able to see the purity of her soul, that they would not be afraid of her and she would not be afraid of them. So years later, the mom sent me an email and she said, I just wanted to give you feedback. And I believe her little girl was either 4 or 5 years old at that time. And she said, what she told us in that session has been very, very accurate. And they lived in North Carolina. And she said to me that one day her child was in the backyard and this mother bear comes walking in the backyard, and that her daughter and this bear locked eyes, and the bear actually bowed down to
Wow.
her as if honoring her. And then the same, they would go to different sanctuaries, and she would just tell me so many stories about that. And I interviewed another psychic medium, and her son is a golden ray, and the same kind of thing. She had a parrot that would not want to be in anybody else's energy, was just fearful and angry. And, nobody could really work with this parrot's energy. And her son, at 3 years old, had such a relationship with that parent. I mean, just no fear, just love. The parrot loved her son. And they had a beautiful relationship together.
So, in absence of what we think of as normal fear and a very
Yes.
pure vibration in its place.
Absolutely, because as you know, Julia, animals read energy just as we can when we tune
Mhm.
into energy. So they can see if we have a pure heart and if we want to love them rather than harm them.
I was thinking that to them, I think it's like when you're in the car with someone who's paranoid about being on the expressway, and you just think if they could just not think anything for 10 minutes, it would be great. And that's probably how animals feel around us a lot of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They feel that energy. And like you said, it's just a shift in perspective and um, a trust
Right.
and a surrender.
That's such a beautiful world that you're describing
You know,
with these
I wrote
children.
I wrote in the book that in a lot of ways it feels like a utopian uh, world, and I do believe that these children that have agreed to incarnate are raising the vibrational frequency, not only of the planet, but of the collective. And being in their energy helps unlock some of their own keys of remembering. So, those people who are blessed enough to be in the energy of one of these starseed children many times will have a spontaneous Kundalini awakening or an expansiveness in their own lives.
Or they just change how they see life because of the child.
Yes, yes,
Now that is so
absolutely.
wonderful.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this book. It's going to help so many of us because, like you said, even if someone's not a parent, they may be a teacher, they may be a guardian
An
in some way,
influencer.
an influencer. Yes, and to understand that these children's needs are very, very different than many of the masses children's needs are. And that's what's so beautiful as well, is starting with the diamond ray and the golden ray and the solar ray children, they will only choose parents who are awakened themselves because they have such a strong mission. They need to stay true to that mission. And these parents and grandparents that I'm interviewing for the book are understanding their needs. They're understanding that they do not do well in the traditional educational system. And so the majority of them are homeschooling or finding some kind of hybrid schooling, which is just helping to expand their
That-
souls as well. And a lot of that is done through nature.
That's almost a miracle in itself.
Yes.
I have a pretty good
Yes.
idea of what it was like for you and for me in school. I would certainly
Yes.
spare any specialized children from that if possible.
Yes. Absolutely. So yes,
So,
I'm go ahead, Julia.
oh, do they have any characteristics that parents need to be aware of so they can help them?
Yes, many of them are extremely sensitive, and a lot of them are either on the spectrum or just highly, highly sensitive. Now, the solar rays and the golden rays are very uncomfortable socially
Mhm.
around other children because they have not had lifetimes on this planet. So humans truly do, seem like aliens to them, and they don't understand why humans behave the way that they do. And so sometimes they can be very outspoken. And this is another reason it's so important to help them feel very, very comfortable with who they are and provide an environment to help them flourish as well.
And probably help them with expression with people
Yes, yes, absolutely.
or how to put what they're thinking into words.
Yes, yes. And, a lot of it is more telepathic. A lot of the parents that I'm interviewing discuss that telepathy that they have had with their children. There was one that I interviewed, and she's gifted herself. She's a psychic medium. I mentored her for years, and she's a grandmother to a golden ray. And she talks about visiting with her golden ray grandson in the astral state, that he's able to come to her astrally, and that she even took a picture in her room, and you can clearly see that it's him. His energy is there in the astral state.
Right. So they obviously have no trouble with projection.
No, none whatsoever.
So that's so fascinating. So what changes do you think they'll make in the world?
I feel like that they are going to help humanity release the need to judge others. If we could truly understand that everybody is on their own journey individually, and we each chose different ways to express ourselves in this current incarnation, if we could just learn to unconditionally love and support others without judgment, that alone would shift the energy on this planet in such a profound way. And I feel like these children are going to help with that. And again, they're also going to help us understand and hold the energy with artificial intelligence, because it's just like anything else with AI. There can be a positive aspect to it and a negative
Mhm.
aspect to it as well. And it depends on the motivations of the people working with that very AI energy. And I feel like these children over time are going to help us anchor that knowing as well.
I have noticed when around them that it seems as though they like me best when I'm very present and quiet and I'm not thinking anything, almost as though my thoughts are loud to them.
That's a good way to put it, Julia. Yes, yes. And because you're in that centered, still place where they understand that energy. And that's why animals respond to them so beautifully as well. The animals feel that same centered, balanced, calm energy. But one thing that I've noticed from the interviews is they we all need to be in nature. They require it even more so than the rest of us. They vibrate at such a high frequency that many times they do seem to be hyper energetically. And when these parents and grandparents have been able to bring them out into nature, teach them about earthing, teach them about hugging the trees and communicating with the plants and the animals, that helps them get to a more balanced place as
Oh, so
well.
that's how they fill up and get overwhelmed, just like people like you and me are more likely to do that from too many people or too
Yes,
much stimuli. Theirs can actually be their thoughts and their higher energy. And they have to
yes,
go outside at that point, I guess, to discharge it and fill back up.
absolutely. That's it. Yes.
That's so interesting.
It is. It's beautiful. I'm so excited about the book and these, being able to interview these parents and grandparents has been such an honor as well, getting to know these amazing children.
I keep thinking as you're talking about it, this is a group of children that are going to come up with what I keep imagining, which is free energy, a cheap way of getting rid of pollution and changing that. Houses that are aligned with the environment that don't cost very much money to live in.
100%, Julia. And that's one thing that I channeled about the solar ray children that started arriving in 2020. And what Spirit said is there's no coincidence that their first incarnations were when the entire planet was shut down from the pandemic because everything got to a place of stillness where that type of vibrational frequency could incarnate here and start planting that energy. But what I channeled about the solar ray children is that they are for sure going to bring alternative methods for our energy that is either free or very, very economical and also a lot more environmentally sensitive. Spirit was telling me that the solar panels are just one step, but that the solar ray children are going to bring technology in from other dimensions that's going to help us shift that as well.
Right. And so it will probably be a pretty quick change when they hit their mid 20s.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's so fascinating, isn't it? And I
It
have a
is.
feeling that nature responds to them differently because of their vibration.
100%. Nature responds differently, just like animals do. Yes.
Yeah. And so probably they could take something that's being used, like what is it? If you have hemp sheetrock, you never have any mold, which if you
Mm,
live in the mountains of Georgia or North Carolina, you definitely would want something like that. But there are lots of things like that. What's another thing? Copper keeps viruses out of your house.
yes, yes. And
Copper things like that. But they haven't really been utilized or done at a price that everyone can afford them.
absolutely. And they're going to bring this wisdom with them and this knowledge from the higher realms and the higher dimensions.
Because I know right now there are a lot of other things. I just can't pull them in as I'm talking to you. But first of all, they'd be really expensive. And second of all, you'd have to have people who could work with those materials.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So
And
I'm excited about these children.
it is really exciting. I'm trying, this is what I wanted to ask you because I keep getting an image like of beautiful faces. Were they particularly beautiful?
They have very expressive eyes,
Hmm.
and with the golden rays, many times their ears are more pronounced as well. So for those of us like you and I who can read energy, yes, you will be drawn to their energy. There's a beauty to their aura that illuminates out. And yes, the eyes are very, very expressive.
And there is a golden color to their aura as you're talking about it. I'm seeing that through your eyes.
Yes, 100%. For the golden rays, you can see the gold in their aura.
Hmm. That's so amazing. That will be such a great thing for the world.
Yes, I agree.
So do you think that this is a funny question because they won't all be that way, but do you think that there'll be less public schools if those kids are going to stay home and be learn at home?
Over time, I feel like that's part of the
Oh,
evolution. I feel like that what happens is more of a hybridization of schools. More and more parents are going to be open to that and bringing, the yoga and the meditation. Just imagine if children were taught about meditating and their breath and yoga from an early age. Just imagine how our planet would change.
I know there's one country because I put it on Facebook, but all the children in all the schools meditate one day a year. And I thought, wow,
Oh,
that's wonderful. I wish they would do that here.
yes, I wish they would as well. They will eventually. They will.
Yeah, they will. So, Joe, let me know we're coming to an end, but tell me what events you have coming up in the future so our listeners can find you.
Sure. I am teaching at Lilydale, which is in New York. If you have not experienced Lilydale, you're in for a treat. I highly recommend everybody come to Lilydale. It's a place of all mediums and beautiful energy. So I'm teaching there July 8th and 9th. Both of them are any levels, and one of them is unlocking your fifth dimensional intuition. And then the next day, I'm teaching a class about soul alchemy and understanding how to work with our own soul's energy and bringing that into our soul's blueprint. So check that out. It's on my website. You can go to my upcoming events and find out the information about those classes.
And your books are there too for people who want to find them.
Yes, they are. They're on my website.
So thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for being with me. You can sign up for my newsletter on my website, One True Self, onetrueself.com. We'll have classes later on in the summer, and on my newsletter you can find out energetic tips about astrology, the weather, emotions and thoughts, and other things like that that you'll find useful. So thank you so much for being with us, Joe. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin to master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Join us next time as Julia takes us deeper into the memory of the moments of light where transcendence and enlightenment emerge. The memory of the jewel of consciousness is always lived within you to tap into waves of energy and create huge changes by imagining the beauty of the vision and desires that are hidden in the heart. Learn to find your way back to nature, beauty, and your own heart, which holds the secrets of your existence and future. To discover more about Julia's adventures, animal communication, and the teachings she brings to every show, visit onetrueself.com. That's onetrueself.com. That's ONE, trueself.com.